Hello, everyone. Welcome to Love Shouldn't Hurt. I am super excited tonight because I have a great show for everyone. If you have seen our ads, if you have seen our promotion, tonight's episode is called Oye Comai. Today, I am excited to bring on two very important people in my life. They're both my comadres, as us Spanish people would say. We are godparents to one another's children, and they are such spectacular women who I love with all of my heart. I do the show every week, and it's always nice to have different faces, different organizations, and just different people coming on. But it's always amazing when I have people in my life who I love who are going to share the screen with me. So before I bring those fabulous ladies on, I am partaking in an amazing event tomorrow. It's going to be an all-day event, and at night there will be an amazing award ceremony. So before I get into all of that, I want to remind folks who are watching, as I always do, if you are dealing with any sort of domestic violence issue and you feel as though you need to reach out to someone, the number is always scrolling across the screen for the National Domestic Violence Hotline, 1-800-799-7233. Remember, if you feel as though you cannot speak and you have to chat with the person, they're on that line to text and to chat. So tonight with me, before we bring the ladies on, I have a very important man in Philadelphia and in our community who's very well known. His name is Ricardo Hurtado. He is the CEO and president of El Sol magazine, the Hispanic media. So I'm going to bring him on tonight so he can tell you some interesting facts about tomorrow's conference. Hello, Ricardo, ¿cómo está?
Christina, good evening. How are you today?
I'm amazing. Welcome. Thank you for coming on tonight.
Thank you for your time. I know things move up very quickly in this world, and I appreciate the time you spent with us tonight.
No problem. So, Ricardo, I was referred to you by Eugene Martinez, one of my favorite people, Mr. Salcero. And I was so excited when he told me about the opportunity and just taking part in the conference. And I want you to tell our viewers about this conference because I think that it's amazing, especially for our Latina women out there, to just be a part of it, to register and just be at it tomorrow. So tell us, please, about this conference tomorrow.
Of course, thank you. Well, first, congratulations. I know you're one of the nominees for tomorrow.
Thank you.
Actually, one of the awardees for tomorrow. Our job in the community is pretty much to amplify the needs of the community and to tell the stories of folks such as yourself in our community. So our company, we own the El Sol Latino newspaper, but aside from the newspaper, which is a weekly product, we have different initiatives geared towards mainly educating Latinas on a better lifestyle. So we do Latina Summit in November. We do Latina Lifestyle in August. Well, it's normally in May. This year, because of COVID-19, we pushed to August. But happily, we're ready for tomorrow's event. And it's pretty much an all-day event that starts with an 11 o'clock seminar where we have Dr. Carabello from Independence Blue Cross and Blue Shield giving us some tips and education about COVID-19. Knowledge is power. If we don't know what we're facing, we don't know how to face it, we're not ready. So knowledge is power, which is the name of the topic tomorrow. We have 3 panelists, and then we have another seminar after that, creating wealth by a renowned coach in Miami, Alexandra Rodriguez, and that's going to be with 3 panels as well. And after that, we have Lizzie G coming in from El Sol doing Latinx, understanding Latinx. Which, nowadays, Latinx is a big deal in our community. It's a new way of embracing who we are in our community, especially after Life Matters now more than ever. As we unite, we must understand how do we identify ourselves. Latinx is a topic that has been convened in politics. It was very heavily discussed for the U.S. Census and, of course, corporate America. So Latinx has become a very important topic in our community and something that we must understand how to embrace it. After that, we have Motivating Latinas, a very phenomenal seminar that is going to be run by Dr. Samar Yorde from Venezuela. She lives in Miami, and she has a spectacular way of taking care of your body, just reviving yourself, moving forward, putting the past behind, and living a healthy lifestyle, pretty much. So we're very excited with that for that program. And of course, we'll close with our Powerful Latinas Award, which is very powerful to our community that we are able to honor Latinas that go beyond and above to achieve better, and their way of life influence others in a positive way. So we'll finish that program. We have 7 winners. Um, we have 3 national winners. One from DC, a native of Philadelphia that moved on, Ariel Datil, known in our community in LA and in DC. Will be one of the awardees. Yolanda Robles, a native Dominican that opened up her business in Atlanta and employs thousands of people in the translation industry. Very successful. Lily Lopez, head of the South Florida Spanish Chamber of Commerce, but a very, very powerful woman that cares deeply for her community and has helped channel communication education on this COVID-19 for businesses in South Florida. Has made a huge difference. And of course, we created our Hero Nurses Award, which I think we at the company felt that it was very important to honor our frontliners. And I mean, who else that the nurses, our frontline nurses, to come in. And we have 2 great winners, Dr. Marlene Martinez, Dominican as well, and Bonita Sanchez, native Puerto Rican, very well known in the community as well. So we're excited to have this, and of course we have you, one of the winners, for Love Shouldn't Hurt and the amazing work that you have done for the community.
Thank you. That's awesome. Well, I will repeat myself by saying that I'm humbled and I'm so grateful to be involved in it, and to even be chosen was super exciting. I think that what you guys are doing is amazing, and every year you highlight Latinas, and I think that that's something that our community lacks. I think we don't celebrate us as much as we should. I think that we do a lot of amazing things, but Latinas are just not celebrated. So I think tomorrow's great, and anyone that's watching, I hope that you guys will go, you will register, so you can get all of the links and participate in the conference as well as the award ceremony. Ricardo, anything else you would like us to know about tomorrow? If not, I'm going to play your promo video so people can register.
Yes, it's pretty much good one. We've been doing promotion on social media, on Facebook, it's Latino newspaper, on Facebook, Instagram, but latinaslifestyle.org. Just log in, participate. If you feel that you want to come in and just pay to learn about the program, it's free, it's educational. It can only help you improve your way of life. Dealing with stress, dealing with anxiety, dealing with economic problems, understanding how to build your wealth, understanding how to build your budget. All these things we provide for free. And it's important for the community, for those who believe they need that help, to either contribute by joining in and participating, or by just logging in and listening and help to bring that branding toward the community. Christina, in this new norm that we're living on, it's very hard for us to understand each other. I feel like we're in prison in our own way of life because we can't move around as much as we could. So we could all definitely need some guidance as how to move forward. Definitely. And congratulations to you and your show.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Well, Ricardo, thank you for joining us. I know that this is part of your evening. You probably had a very long day, so I appreciate you coming on and just sharing the time with us. Have a good night. Abrazos y te veo mañana, ¿verdad? Somewhere on the screen.
Yeah. 6 o'clock. You got to be nice and sharp and ready to receive your award, which you should have received in your home address today.
I will. Thank you so much.
Great.
Have a good night. Thank you for joining us. Well, everyone, that was Ricardo Hurtado of El Sol newspaper, Hispanic media. If you were watching, he is talking about tomorrow's event, which will be an amazing all-day event with closing at night, 6 p.m., the Hispanic Awards for the Powerful Latinas. So I am going to show you their promo. At the end, you will see where you can register. Join us, register so you can be a part of this amazing event. It will be educational. It will be just phenomenal. And if anything, it's just an amazing day to learn about Hispanics and especially Latinas who are doing big things right now for us.
Llega la versión 2020 de Latinas Lifestyle. Acompáñanos a vivir el empoderamiento de la mujer latina en nuestra conferencia online este 26 de agosto de 11 de la mañana a 3 de la tarde vía Zoom. Regístrate ya en nuestra página web.
Well. Now we're coming to where I get excited. So everybody that watches the show every week, they know that I'm full of energy, I'm loud, I'm crazy. But listen, you are the people that you surround yourself with. And these two women have been surrounded and in my circle and loving on me for pretty much all of my life. I love these two women. I am so super excited to have them here today. Today's show is called Oye Comai, and we're going to be live with Evelyn Vasquez and Jessica Fontanes, two of my favorite ladies. So I'm going to welcome them to the screen so you can see why I love them so much. Hello, mujeres.
Hi.
Hi, how are you this evening?
Good. That's not a lot to live up to, all that energy we got to have. Come on, Jessica.
I'm just pretending to be on mute for the time being so that I can get it together.
We'll get it together.
Uh-huh.
You guys are crazy. So as per usual for everyone watching, at the bottom of the screen, you will all see the ticker that will let you know where you can contact the National Domestic Violence Hotline. So every week we talk about pretty important topics. Last week we got into rape, sexual abuse, domestic violence, and we even spoke about WAP, which is the new sensation because we're talking about imagery and just how people see women. But this week, I'm talking to these two beautiful women because I think that it's always great to get perspective. This week, our perspective is from the friendships view. There's a lot of women who go through domestic violence at times and they have no idea who to reach out to. And a lot of times they hide. They don't let their family and friends know what's going on. And sometimes their friends do know what's going on, but are afraid to talk or just have different ideas of what may or may not be happening. So I have these two women here today because they've always been in my life, like I stated. So when I was going through my craziness, both of these ladies were around. I never really knew how they felt, what they thought, or what ran through their mind during that time. So today will be a no holds back. They're going to say whatever they always wanted to say and never had the opportunity without being offended. I don't care. I want us to be open because anybody that's watching may be going through the same thing. As always, we want to make sure that we're helping somebody that's watching. So ladies, listen, today is your day. Today's the only day you get a pass. Listen, I even have my cup of alcohol because I need to make sure that I'm prepped for this conversation. She got water.
No, sorry.
So listen, I was like, how do I start this conversation so that one of them can start talking? But you know what? You're both just as lively and goofy as I am. So let's just roll right into it.
Mm-hmm.
No hold back, right? Mm-hmm. So my first question for you ladies is, honest question. When I was going through all these years of craziness, did you feel like you knew? Who wants to go first? Jessica looks puzzled, so we'll go with Evelyn.
You know what? I think we knew, but we didn't know, if that makes sense. Like, things weren't right. Things seemed off. You had your thoughts, you had your ideas. For me, I know I felt like, nah, it can't possibly be. I know that we can go through things, but there's no way that I can have a friend who's going through something like that. I was young too. So I have to, I had to cut myself some slack and say, I didn't know the signs. I didn't have that in my home. I didn't have those experiences, thank goodness. Although now in retrospect, I realize I did, but at that time I didn't think I did. Right. So I was like, I didn't know if that was what was happening. There were instances when you would come over and, maybe I'd see a bruise and I'm just like, she's clumsy. Or you would laugh it off, and you are. And the thing is that anyone who knows you knows that you can fall pretty easily, and we're like, what just happened? There's nothing there. But in retrospect, once you start to share your story a bit more openly recently, it was like, oh, maybe that's what was going on. So I knew that you weren't in a healthy relationship. I knew that for a fact. But I could be honest, I didn't know the extent. I think back on the times and I say, okay, yeah, the signs were there, but I wasn't 100% sure.
Jessica,
I agree.
I see you shaking your head.
You know why? Because it's one of those things when you love someone, you feel like someone else and everyone else around them values them the same way that you do. So I felt like looking back, and I was also young. I'm a lot younger than you are, so I'm gonna put that.
You have that right.
Where's that
Don't
mute
say a
button?
lot.
Mute,
Don't say
mute.
a lot. Mute her. Mute her.
Anyway, no, I'm kidding. I don't know that I recognized the signs either, but it wasn't right. There was always something a little bit off. You know, he was never around, but there was always talk of him, but he was just never around the circle, never around the friends, always in his own little world. But there was always some sort of mistreatment where you would brush it off like, oh, that's just how he is, or he's doing this instead, or he's working, but there were certain instances where he should have chosen to be with you. You know, if there's a group setting or a group party, he should be part of the group, but he was never around. So it was almost like there was the Chrissy that we knew, and then there was like a whole nother world, another person that was like a phantom to us.
Mm-hmm.
So it was hard. It's hard to recognize that as abuse when, you know, nowadays it's different. Nowadays people call that privacy, you know, because of social media, or they don't want people in their business. But at the same time, you don't want to probe, but you want to know, like, what's the secret?
Mm-hmm.
Why isn't he here? Or why is he always finding something better to do than to be with you?
Mm-hmm. I think too, Jessica, I don't know if he was around though. Weren't there times where you kind of didn't want him around because you didn't know him, or because of the stories that you heard as her girlfriend that you're kind of like, it's cool, he doesn't have to come around either? That you heard different things and behaviors, ways that he was treating Christina that kind of felt like, I don't think I want to be around a person like that. I don't need that around. But I agree with you but he never really got the option. It wasn't like he chose.
No, he never tried.
No, I don't want to, Christian, was that on purpose for you though? Did you keep him away? Like, did you feel like I don't want him around, or he doesn't want to be there, or we didn't push? Like, what was going through your mind? Like,
Well, honestly, if you guys, and you both saw the documentary. So if you think back onto the documentary and you see where I talk about, it was constant. He was always hitting me. He hit me every other day, no matter what I said. I think I hid a lot from you guys, which was another thing. Like, you know, there were times when I didn't come around or I didn't call. But the times that I was around, it was more he hit me the day before. Mm-hmm. So I was going to be around you guys. That was my safety net. Mm-hmm. So he hit me the day before, or he hit me this morning. So it wasn't something that was like, okay, sometimes he hit me. He hit me all the time. So whenever I was around you, honestly, when I was with you guys, that was my safe haven. That was my safe place. I was away from him for that moment. So however long I was with you, however long I stayed and I visited, if I stayed longer than you thought I should, or I wore my welcome, it was probably because I was avoiding going back to him. I was avoiding because I was scared if I go home, it's going to happen again, which was kind of like my day-to-day, which none of you knew.
No. I feel like if we saw him more often and his interaction with you, we probably would have figured it out sooner.
Yeah,
probably would have.
I think we pretty much knew that a lot of it was verbal, definitely emotional. I think that was pretty evident with what you would share, you know, with what you did share, the stories you did tell us. And I think just to give perspective, people have to remember, these are like your friends when they tell you stuff about their boyfriend and you're like, oh my God, girl, it was different. It was beyond that. And it was kind of like, so where are your limits? It's obvious he's not treating you well. And
oh, that's the word. That's it. It's limit.
Yeah. So and as your friends who probably we thought we had it all together, like, oh my gosh, she needs to get it together. But we didn't realize, obviously, just how embedded you were. And just, we didn't understand fully what domestic violence was. We just kind of thought you're not strong enough, or what's wrong? How much does it take? Oh my God. That's a hard part as a friend, to not do that.
It is. And I think the importance of what it is that I do weekly, by bringing on different organizations, by bringing on different people, by bringing you ladies on and giving different perspective, is that I think the importance is that people live through it with their family members, their friends, and they don't know what the signs are because either we cover it up well, or they're just not so well vested in it that they have no idea what they see, which is blatantly in front of them. Now, not to discredit either one of you and say, oh, well, you knew it and it was right in front of you, because there were people who physically lived with me and knew what was going on. but they felt helpless as well. So it's not to discredit you at all. But like I said, I do this weekly so that if anybody is watching and they're affected by domestic violence, they can say, oh, damn, you know what? That is different. I did see a change in my friend. She is a little different kind of thing. And I think it's scary for the most part because in situations such as this, you kind of just sit back in the back and you're just like, I'm not sure. I'm not. So my next question for the two of you is this. If you felt like during that time, and everything that I'm talking about is past tense, if you felt during that time kind of like an inkling, what were your thoughts? Like, if I tell her this will happen, if I tell her that'll happen, like what were your opinions?
I think for me, I was scared that I would lose you to some degree. If I tell her that I think this is it, is she going to choose him over me? And then that's it. If I tell her, do I lose my goddaughter? Because your daughter's my goddaughter. Do I see her less? Do I get an interaction with her? I think too, what if I'm right? What if she tells me it's happening? What do I do with that? I don't know how to help her. You know, I can't bring her here. What do you do? You know, I don't know. I think that those were my fears and my concerns. And if I got the answer, what's the next step?
Not only that, but I feel like, you know how I am. I'm not going to bite my tongue. I would have said, you know, something, but then I don't have that fear of losing you because I'm going to find you. You're stuck. That's just how it's going to go. So like it or not, this is just how it's going to be. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't afraid of losing you, but I think that in our culture, we tend to sway as, I don't know if it's a Puerto Rican thing or a Hispanic, I don't know where it comes from, but you know, we grew up in the mindset, if she stays es porque le gusta,
right?
You know, and you just start to think to yourself, well, maybe she likes it. Or I think it's an ignorance of the culture because, you know, while some people are on the outside looking in and going, she likes it, the truth of the matter is we don't know how deep you're in. You know, we don't know, you know, I guess in the end, we didn't know how dangerous he was and we didn't know what kind of a person that he was. So I'm on the outside looking at you thinking she must like it, or maybe honestly deep down inside at some point I thought maybe she's staying in the hopes that he's going to change, that he's going to come home one day and he's going to say, I'm just going to be an all around better human. I'm going to stop, you know, everything else in the background and everyone else in the background. And I'm going to stop hitting you and I'm going to love on you. And me and the baby and you are going to be happily ever after. So for a long time, that's almost what I thought that you were waiting for. And I just couldn't understand the point of it. Not because I knew that he was hitting you, but just because I knew he just wasn't a good person in general. He wasn't a good human to you so I just felt like, I know that you wanted love, you know, and I know that when you had the baby, no one plans on being a single parent. That's not an easy road to choose willingly. So for me, I thought she's just waiting for him to turn around and say, come to Papa. Life is better and I'm going to do it so much better now. And that moment just never came because that's just not who he is. And that's not really who he's ever going to be, honestly.
I think you made a really good point, and I saw a comment about the culture too. I think culturally, we don't recognize or even talk about what abuse is. You have tios and tias and this people who were abused growing up. You never looked at it as abuse. You just thought, tio drinks too much, and titi's always leaving, and I didn't realize it. And yeah, they're always fighting, and
she'll be back.
Tio always smacks Titi, but Titi is because she asks for it, and you or whatever, you know. And you start to think back and realize our culture really does kind of ingrain with us that it's accepted, and or you asked for it, or they don't define it as abuse. Right. You know, and you just kind of get used to it. And I get so frustrated now when I even hear a girl gets beat up by her boyfriend and someone says, well, she must have asked for it. I wonder what she did to piss him off. And it's kind of like, what? Like, and I think that our culture is a huge factor to that. And just growing up in different households where we never called it domestic violence. We just called it, like you said, it's just problems in the house you don't talk about. But it's bigger than that. It's bigger than that. And I think, and again, like I said, in thinking back on it, I think it was you pulled away for a little while at certain times too. And I think people think the same thing. If I get myself in the middle of that, you know, where's that going to put me?
Yeah, I definitely believed it was cultural when I went through it, because I know that when I finally left and I had a child already, it was already 2 years later, and he was stalking me at my apartment once I had moved on. And I moved back home to live with my grandmother and my dad. Having my daughter, whenever I would have conversations with my grandmother, you know, God bless her, she's not here anymore, but she would always say to me, "Ay, tu abuelo me daba." Like, it kind of was just played off as, you know, esas son cosas que pasan. You know what I mean? And like, it is what it is, you know? And then in retrospect, other times when she would see me crying or really upset, she would say, I better never see him. He better never come around here. But the conversation still happened, like, oh, well, you know, your grandfather hit me, you know, that happened, you know? So, yeah, it's a norm. So for our culture, it's like exactly what I repeat every show. Lo que pasa en la casa se queda en la casa, because people feel like that's something you just don't talk about. You just don't bring it up. You don't talk about it. You know, that's something that we just happen. I always heard la mujer hace al hombre. So we grow up with this idea that we are capable of changing men and their behaviors. Definitely, Shirley, that's a very good point. And to Jessica's point of what she said, maybe I was waiting for him to change. Now that I'm a lot older, I'm a lot more mature, and I can look back on the situation, she's absolutely right. There was plenty times that, one, like she stated, I just wanted someone to love me. I just wanted, you know, everyone around me had a boyfriend. Everyone around me had someone that they were dating. You know, my friends were having babies. I was the only one that didn't have a baby, you know, and in me, it was like I was missing something. So because this man was hitting me, it didn't matter, because maybe, just maybe, it might work out and I'll get the life that all my friends have. That was kind of a part of my mindset as well, you know, and I think it helps too for people to see the documentary and kind of hear my perspective and hear everything I went through, because as Jessica and Evelyn said, they never knew how deep it was. They never knew that a gun sat on top of the table to make sure that I stayed straight. They didn't know that he was threatened as soon as I would walk out, that he was going to kill a family member if I left. So everybody who would say, well, you left to go to work every day, why'd you go back? I went back because I thought he would kill my mother or kill my father or kill someone else. So it's either choose losing one of your family members or just staying and just let him hit me. So that was kind of like my mindset at the time. Alicia says it's definitely embedded in our culture that we don't talk about it, but hopefully we can see the signs in family members and friends to help them get through it. Definitely. And I think that's very important. And that's why I do this show every week and I bring on people who have lived through it. And I thought it was super important tonight to bring these two women on here, because both of them, whether they knew at the time or not, lived through it with me. And just by being there and opening the door when I would come over, they were a help that they had no idea they were. So someone put up a comment, and I'm going to put it up. She put it earlier in the show, but I want to put it up there. Yvette says, Christina, can you please talk about how domestic, Evelyn, I'm sorry, it's covering you. how domestic violence affects the youth in the household and how they can become a victim, not physically, but mentally, emotionally, because of their fear and helplessness to carry on. So I want to segue that. I want to touche that for a number of reasons. My daughter did not go through it at an older stage where she understood, but my daughter did witness it firsthand at an age that she can comprehend what is going on. And Jessica was a part of that day. So if you haven't seen the documentary, I talk on the last time he hit me. And to put it all short, because we can't be here for hours, he wanted to see his daughter. I was afraid because of the messages he was leaving on my phone. I locked my phone. I stopped answering the calls, and he showed up where I was. My daughter was 3 years old, so she was old enough to know it was daddy at the door. She was old enough to know if he came in and he hit me, what just happened. He was told where I was. He found me. When we opened the door, he charged in and knocked me out cold. Now, if I start to cry, everybody knows I'm a crybaby. I always cry. When I woke up, there were police officers in the home, the woman who owned the home, because I was babysitting her daughter, and the police officers were trying to figure out what happened. And my daughter's response to the police officer, I cry every time. My daughter's response was, Daddy hit mommy. And he hit mommy, and mommy went all the way down, and mommy didn't wake up. that was the day that I decided it was my last time. And I think because of just this event, because I knew from that moment on, even though she was 3, God help me, I figured this is a memory my daughter is going to carry for the rest of her life. And I'll be damned if my daughter is going to remember this. And I'm trying not to keep crying. I'm trying to make it go away. But again, if you watch me every week, something always makes me cry. But I think it's super important because a lot of times we stay for all the wrong reasons. We stay because we think exactly that, we think that at some point he'll find love and he'll love me enough to stop and he'll give me what I want. We'll stay because financially we're scared to leave because we don't think economically we can do it on our own. I lived in my car for 3 weeks when I left the first time. So I think people stay for all the wrong reasons. And I think it's important for people to realize that our children do see what's going on. And even though she was 3, it's a memory that when we have conversations, she's never forgotten. It's a memory that, yes, she was 3 and people say it was a long time ago. She still remembers. She talks about it. We have open conversations because we're very open with one another. And she tells me, I don't remember everything, Mom, but I know that he hit you and I know that you couldn't get up. And that memory has an effect on them that I can't even possibly explain. I've lived through it with my daughter. I know what she's seen since then. It breaks my heart that I could not protect her from that. But I think that it's important that we make sure that when we think about those things of maybe eventually he'll love me, or maybe, he'll give me that relationship or marriage I want because all my friends are married, that we remember that if we have children, they're watching. And that's super important to remember that whatever happens, they know. It's just like when they say we're pregnant and they say whatever you feel, the baby feels. I can remember a lot of times during my pregnancy where I definitely cried and I was miserable and I was depressed, and people would say, she feels it. And I was always scared. Oh my God, when she's born, she's going to be an unhappy baby. She's going to cry all the time. She's going to be this, she's going to be that. And I worried about it. And people just don't realize the lasting effects the day we break generational curses. Amen. Mary Santiago says, yes, exactly what we're saying, because in our families, our older family members, our grandmothers, our mothers, our old school family members, si él lo hizo y ella se quedó, pues, ¿será que le gustaba? Like Jessica said. So I had a conversation with Evelyn a few weeks ago about different things that we could talk about on the show. And I want to get into this because I think that it's super important. And I think that Jessica can say the same. If there's anything that these 2 ladies I can attest, they are 120% honest, boldly honest. And if they have something that they need to say to me, they try their best not to hurt me, but they tell me straight up. And I think that living through that experience, Jessica can agree with Evelyn when she talks about what she talks about. So we talk about my abuser often. We talk about the effects of what he did to me. But Evelyn made a very, very good point that he was not the only person who hurt me.
Yeah, I think that the reason that came up is because I'd been sitting on that for a little while, because in the documentary and in various forums, he seems to be the primary person we talk about. And when I started to think back in retrospect, I was like, Chrissy, I think that before you met him, you were just primed for someone like him, because you had met people along the way who had mistreated you as well. Now, to be clear, as women, as men, people, period, you're going to meet really awful people that either shape you and help you find someone and really appreciate them. But I felt that along the way that you had been in different relationships with men that they didn't appreciate you either. They put you down and they mistreated you. And when I said that, I was like, I think it's because you were at a point where that was easy for you to believe. That's what if you heard that, you believe that. But you had people like myself and Jessica and countless other friends, because you've had friends longer than you've had us, that would say, you're crazy, you're beautiful, you're smart, you're talented, you do this. And none of that ever resonated with you. But for some reason, you date these men who would say, you're ugly, you're fat, your hair's this, your eyes are that, this is that. And that stuck with you. And I said, I think when you got to him, you were perfectly presented for a person like him. He said, I don't have to do very much to get this girl to be in a position to allow for me to take this to the next level and make it physical. Say what she likes to hear, what she's expecting to hear. And then I'm going to take it to another level and I'm going to make it physical. And that was where our conversation came from. And I remember saying it because I was kind of like, Is she gonna get upset? And I mean, she can, because I, like Jessica, I was like, all right, she can ignore me for a week. But I was like, you were receptive, but it was something that I really sat on, and I said, yeah, he is the obvious one that we should talk about, because he encompassed everything: the physical, the emotional, the verbal. And I think it's very important for us to talk about those other aspects, because the physical, we all go right to the physical, but the verbal and emotional abuse, that's huge in our culture and in people, period. So I felt like you had a lot more of the emotional and the verbal before you even got to him, and he just added to it. He was just like, oh, I can take this now, and I can take it to the next level.
Can I just say something really quickly? I've thought about this for a while now. There was something, I feel like, regardless of how much we knew when it was going on, I feel like there was really nothing that any of us could have said. And Evelyn can attest to this. There was nothing any of us could have said to you that would have flipped the switch for you. It just wasn't going to happen until you were ready for it to happen. So we, I drove you to get a restraining order that night. So I couldn't have said to you, Chrissy, look, it's like 3:00 in the morning. I'm going to have to call out of work tomorrow because I'm bringing you to get a restraining order. That still would not have made the difference to you until you decided enough was enough. So until you put that boundary up, you set your limits, that's when you were able to say, I'm done. I can't have any more of this. Because I don't believe for a second that if La Nena would not have seen this, I don't think that you would have put your line in the sand right there. You know what I mean? There could have been more. And the reason why I say that is because, to Evelyn's point, you have allowed for other people to, you're ugly, you're fat, I don't like this about you, I don't like that about you. And the whole time, we've been your cheering squad in the background, like, that's not true. He's wrong. Or, if one person says one bad thing about you, you have a whole squad in the background that's going, not true. I know. And here's what I can attest to: A, B, C, and D, and I can keep going if need be. So it wasn't until you decided, till you made that point, I'm not allowing this anymore, that's where it ended. And I feel like that's ultimately, over the years, has actually made you better, because now you not only do you recognize the signs of physical abuse, but now you recognize the signs of mental abuse and emotional abuse. So now you're realizing, I have more worth, I have more value than what this person, tried to put me down or tried to place on me.
Yeah. And and what's crazy, because as girlfriends, also as comais, it's like you get frustrated and you're like, oh my God, why can't she see what we see? Why? Like, and then, you do what girlfriends sometimes do, is like, I'm not going to call her. I'm not going to.
I want to talk to her right now.
And you're like, but you do. But, if you're like that friend and you're just like, maybe you don't be so quick to do that. There could be more than meets the eye. And I'm glad we didn't do that. I'm glad that, we stuck around and got to see this fantastic transformation and be a part of your growth and today and going forward and say we knew you when.
I'm not big time yet.
Just remember, Jessica and everyone were here.
Remember the little people.
Well, I think listening, and I'm sure the people that are watching are probably like, damn, they really telling her about herself. But I think that taking it in and listening to it definitely takes growth. I don't know if I would have been as receptive to these types of conversations back then. I think back then I would have put every excuse in the world for that person. I think I'm still a little bit guilty of that. I had a conversation with Evelyn a few weeks ago about something. And I snapped very quickly, like, no.
Yeah.
And she said, you see what you just did right there? Like, you were really defensive right there.
Yeah.
And I think that I'm still growing. I think that I think I've come a long way. I think back then, I was very broken. I definitely hated myself. I mean, it's just a sad factor of who I was. I mean, I was counseling kids every day, but I couldn't even stand who I was. You know, I didn't, like you said, I didn't see any positivity in who I was. So exactly, I was an easy target because I believed everything they said to me. But I think now with the growth, being able to look back, helping people, being able to hear their stories and kind of be like, wow, I was there one day. I kind of see it in a totally different light.
Mhm.
And I'm just like, wow. Like now I see you guys and I see what you guys must have thought, what you guys were feeling at that time. And I'm like, damn, you know, like I kind of feel like, oh my God, like I feel like I put you through it because I knew that you guys loved
did.
it. I
That's why I'm
know.
thinking about it.
That's why you drink. Oh my God. Sorry.
That's why we're here to tell you about yourself, girl.
It's honestly, it was, and I know Evelyn feels the same way. It was more like I just wanted to shake you, like just shake you and scream right in your face, like
Wake
this
up.
is never gonna change.
Yeah.
This is not gonna get any better. This person is not who you imagine him to be, because it was almost like you created someone, you know, and then you wanted him to live up to this creation. And that person that's not who he was. I will say this because this is something that you and I really don't talk too much about. I don't find him to be one of my favorite people ever. So we don't really waste any energy discussing this, but I will say that in the end, karma has come back to him. I think we all know that. And you have a bigger purpose in life. Like, love shouldn't hurt is part of your purpose. Those were the steps you had to take in order to get to this point, because you don't know whose life you're saving with these weekly lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And
I'm
I'm
sorry.
going to say, to be honest, I mean, who really likes to be told about themselves? Like you mentioned that, like that you kind of caught yourself. That's a huge growth thing, you know. Like you have to be in a really good place for someone to tell you when they think you're doing something wrong. So I think that was a natural reaction. I obviously didn't take offense. I think it's hilarious that you bring it up, but I just want to be fair because I really think that no one really likes to be told that they're doing something wrong, you know, particularly when that's not where you were trying to go with that. But I do think that you've grown a tremendous amount, leaps and bounds. It's amazing.
Well, thank you. It's been a lot. People, you know, it's funny because people say that all the time. People say that I'm kind of reliving it by doing this, and I'm reliving the pain, but really I'm not. People tell me all the time, why didn't you leave? Like, I respect what you're doing, but why didn't you leave? Like, you were old enough to know better and all the above. And take away from all the reasons why I was scared, I cannot look back at that time anymore and be angry. And I'm not. And people ask me why, when I speak to him, we speak normal. And I said this when I did the documentary, and I've said this to a lot of people since then. I forgave him, which is difficult for a lot of people to accept. I forgave him because I felt like if I didn't forgive him, I would never get past it ever. And I had to be able to say, you know what? I forgive you. You are no longer my problem. And because of your situation and because of what we went through, I have an amazing child. You know, so I think back to that time, and I didn't get pregnant until we broke up. Crazy enough. All those years together, I got pregnant when we broke up. So had I left when all the craziness was going on, I wouldn't have my daughter. And my daughter is the love of my life. She is a phenomenal young lady. She is growing into such a great person. I'm not even worried about her future because I'll be worried about them, because my girl knows what she's doing. Like Evelyn could attest, like my girl, I'll be afraid for the man that dates her. But, you know, if I had left at that time, I wouldn't have her. And my daughter has brought me an immense amount of love. I think all of the love that I lacked through the years, I found in her. I think that she's also helped me with my growth, with her maturity, with her getting older. She has checked me when she has to check me. She has had conversations with me that I'm like, did she say that? and I have to kind of pull myself back. So I think that the learning curve comes exactly like Jessica said, when you finally yourself say, I'm done. And for me, unfortunately, it happened after years and years and years of abuse. But my daughter is the best thing that could have happened to me. So I don't regret my past. I think that my past has brought me to my present. I think that I'm a stronger person. I can deal with things in such a better way. Teresa, thank you. He is your daughter's father, and what affects him will somehow affect her. That's called being a bomb ass mom. Thank you, Teresa.
That's so true.
It is. And you know, people constantly ask me this question. How does he feel about what it is that you do? I honestly do not know. I have never told him. I find it hard to believe that he doesn't know. Love Shouldn't Hurt is known in so many different places. He has family members that follow me. So I kind of feel like he does know. If he doesn't, I guess he will one day. But he hasn't. And my thing is, I don't, where I'm at in life now, I don't discredit him any longer. It is what it is. It was a long time ago. My daughter's 13, so it was eons before her and after her. And I think that it's just made me a stronger person. So, you know, when he finds out, he finds out. Till then, I'm living my purpose. And I think that even though I went through it, it's given me a greater reason to continue and be who I am. I mean, my organization has helped so many people already. I hopefully will continue to help women and just uplift them. You know, it was just a documentary that turned into an organization. We wrote a book. We have a show. I received an award. Like, I feel like it's doing so well. None of what I went through hurts anymore. If that makes any sense.
It wasn't me.
I think you're also eventually you won't have to tell the story so much, because Love Shouldn't Hurt will become such a powerful entity in and of itself that the story that'll come to you will be the new story behind Love Shouldn't Hurt. And not that we want to forget the mission of it, but it's important that you share why you do it, because people, like you say, will have something to say. And I think it's incredible how many people have things to say. You know, why didn't you leave? Why didn't you stay with it? It's just, I don't know, all the bonchinche. It's crazy. It's just people always have something to say. It's like, you know, we should focus and kind of reshift that to positivity instead of always talking about negative. And that's what I feel like you're doing with this. Like, this is an extremely negative experience in your life that you've reshifted, and you're telling it your way, and you're sharing it your way. And even having this representation with Alina and with this and with it's just different. So
to highlight, because again, that was so many years ago, 10, 13, 15 years ago. Okay. That, like Evelyn said before, that wasn't called domestic violence. That was just your relationship. And in the last 2 years, it's almost like, you know, the whole group has woken up and said, wait a minute, this isn't right. This isn't normal. This doesn't happen in everybody's households. You know, I think that where it stems from, you know, with the event with Jeannie and bringing it all together is more like, that's a light that we need, because there are people still living that. And there are friends of theirs that have no idea how to recognize it, or how to approach it, or how to even begin to think how to help if they're right. So
I think as a friend, you have to, like, as a friend or a family member, you have to educate yourself almost somewhat in a way that a victim does. You know, you have to go and do your research and make those calls, call this hotline and ask them and say, listen, I think I have an aunt or a cousin or a friend or someone who's getting abused. And I honestly, I don't know what to do. How do I best support them? What are the right steps to take? And I think that's super key, because I wouldn't have thought of that. So I hope that people who might be watching can say, all right, well, they're saying all these stories, but what do we do with it? It's like, call that number at the bottom and really just straight up be like, I don't know what to do with this. This is new to me. I want to be armed when they're ready. When they come to me, what do I do? How do I get this together for them? And just educate themselves.
Definitely. So we are leading towards 10 minutes left. And I think that the time flies by when you're having fun. So it was Extremely, extremely a good night for me because, like I said, anybody who's watching, two very important people in my life. COVID has kept me from the one at the top more than I would want, but I love them dearly and they hold tremendous places in my heart, and they both know that. Um, I think it was important if you're just tuning in and you have no idea what we're talking about. We're about to come to a close in the last 10 minutes of our show. Tonight, we're talking with two friends who lived through this time of domestic violence with me. I don't think at all times they knew what it was that I was dealing with. We've had conversations of whether or not it was abuse, what parts of that abuse did they come into, what they could have said, should have said, and what their feelings are. As always, the domestic violence hotline is going across the bottom, and I want whoever is watching and inboxes after to remember that number. If you are in a home that you're dealing with domestic violence, please do not stay quiet. I know that you may feel as though you're scared, you're terrified, but there are folks out there like myself and different organizations who are here to help you. Reach out to them. If your abuser is in the home with you and you were scared to make that call, know that you can text that line and somebody will respond on the other end. Ladies, I love you guys both for being here. You're both truly amazing Latinas who are also bomb-ass moms, who are also bomb-ass Latinas who are doing some amazing things.
Cheers to that.
Cheers to that.
Salud.
We are raising some amazing children.
Mhm.
Evelyn has beautiful little girls. Jessica has handsome little boys. One of them is my godson. I love them. I think we're doing phenomenally with our children and we're doing amazing things. So before we close out, I have a question for each of you. Your last question. Nothing major. Here is my last question. Jessica doesn't have a daughter, but she has sons, and I know she never would want them to harm anyone. So thinking of my situation, living through it, being so close to it. And by the way, very quickly, let's highlight Jessica for a moment there. Jessica will highlight that she drove me to get my protection order. But she also, let's tell folks the truth. She also, so here's a backstory with that evening. He took my cell phone and he roofed it so that I couldn't make any phone calls. The neighbors gave me their phone so that I could make a phone call. I called the girl whose house it belonged to, and I called her because she was the other number I remembered by heart. And I had just finished being with her only a few hours before at the Hispanic Festival. I called her. I told her what happened. She was there in less than 2 minutes, and she didn't live that close. And she had a license to carry. I don't know who gave that girl a license to carry. And
This was before I found Jesus, y'all. But I was locked and loaded and I meant business. So this was before I had kids. And before I thought of the world in a different light. But I was ready to protect her because I was like, come back then. Come back.
yeah, when she came, I was in the house and she came and she said, I have my gun in my purse. And I was like, you are not shooting anybody. And she was like, well, I got it just in case. Real sassy. And I said, well, he left. She was like, well, if he comes back, I got it. And my girl went outside to the front of the house and was pacing for about a half an hour, till the police were done and we had to go get a protection order. She stood outside with this gun. And listen, we're not promoting guns, folks. Years ago, but I'm telling you the back end of this crazy gal up that night. I think honestly, if everybody in my life knew what I was going through, a few of their husbands and men probably would have shown up the same way.
Yeah. And you know what's really funny, just to kind of piggyback, there was an event you had and he showed his ass a little bit.
Oh.
Do you recall? It was about 6 or 7 of us went back to your apartment with you. It was about 6 or 7 girls who were ready to whoop ass if he came back to show off again. None of us left. And you were like, you guys can leave. And we were like, no, none of us are leaving. We were ready.
Yeah. So listen, if you're watching, these are the type of crazy ass Latinas I have in my life.
Oh, hell yeah.
But I'm truly grateful for because they have definitely been some of my saving graces, even at moments that they had absolutely no idea that they were. So if you people have an amazing circle of friends, hold on to them. Because like I tell my daughter, it's not about quantity. It's always about quality. And when I look at these two, I definitely have two very full of quality women in front of me who has always been there no matter what. So ladies, I'll get to my question.
Okay.
One by one. If your daughter, Evelyn, either of your daughters, your little mamas, were going through domestic violence, what would you say would be what you would say to her?
Oh God.
Either of them. You have two girls. Jessica, think about it.
Oh my God. Because Jessica, like, I feel like, you know, you have boys. So this is really great. Two opposite ends of the spectrum.
That's right.
Oh my God. I would first want her to feel safe that she can tell me what's happening. I think that that's important. I don't want her to be scared that mama's not going to be there, that I'm not going to support her, that I'm going to judge her. I'm going to think that she's less than or she deserved it. I think the first thing is going to be like, listen, I'm here and you don't need to live like that. And what do you need from me? You know, she has an amazing dad. Like her dad's so awesome. So it's kind of like you know you're worth a lot because we've really tried very hard to give you that message. So I think for me, honestly, I would just be like, tell me what you need from me. What can I do? Let me shut up and you talk to me and you tell me what we need. And then I will probably have to make sure daddy's not going upstairs and grabbing his gun and going outside the damn front door. Look, they'll call
Titiana. That's Evelyn's sister, everyone.
Listen, she'll have aunts and uncles that will probably be out the door before I can even say, but what happened? And that'll be it. I'm like, oh, but daddy's gone.
This one.
Daddy's gone. So I think that daddy would handle it that way. And I'd be like, what do you need from me? And you're safe and you're here. And you don't have to be afraid. You don't have to be afraid. You don't have to live that way. You never have to live that way. Mommy didn't live that way. Titi's didn't, but we're here. And then honestly, I think I'm so fortunate. I would say, let's loop Titi Chrissy in and say, this is probably a little bit bigger than me. But what do I need to do, Chrissy? What do I need to do in this? Because this is bigger than me. I can be that friend or even in my role professionally, but when it's your baby, I don't know if I would get it right. So I would be so scared I would get it wrong. So I would want to just envelop her with love and acceptance and just being there. And then I would say, this is bigger. We need to figure out how to help you, but you don't have to go to that.
Right. And I think it's super important. And maybe I'm tooting my horn a little bit too. I think it's super important that our girls know that. And I honestly feel like they do.
Mm-hmm.
I think not just because I've been through it, but I think even though we don't realize that, I think both of our daughters are watching. I posted a picture yesterday on my Instagram and I said my beautiful niece, and that was Evelyn's daughter, who actually was wearing my Love Shouldn't Hurt shirt, and she had her purple bandana, and she actually texted me a photo of it before she even took a selfie, and she wears the shirt all the time. So I think that our girls are watching, they're listening, they know exactly what's going on. So I think it's super important that they have these conversations early on. Alina and I talk about it all the time. So I think it's important. Jessica, my question for you is this. You have two little boys on the opposite of Evelyn's two little girls. Domestic violence happens amongst men as well. Not as much as we think, but believe me, I get phone calls and text messages. But that's not the question I'm going to ask. My question is, if you received a call from one of their girlfriends saying that they may have done something.
Wait, sorry. She was like,
sister. You see her face? She's like,
I wish he would. That's what I just saw. Sorry, go ahead.
What would your reaction be to them?
If my son did that?
Yes.
Oh, hell no. Honestly, you know that when you love someone and they say to you, I'm disappointed in you, you know how that crushes you more than a punch in the gut, because your feelings are just, no one wants to disappoint anyone. And I think that that's where I would start with my kids. Like, I'm disappointed in you. That's not anything that I've ever taught you. That's not what I've shown you. That's not anything you've ever seen at home. You know, yes. But I feel like, you know, my first priority would probably be to make sure that she's okay, because before I was their mom, I was a woman. So I would want to make sure that she's okay. And then I might strangle my own child and say, what is going on? Where did this come from? Whether that's where it came from, because mommy gets violent when she's apparently passionate about something. But I mean, you know, it's just, that's not something that my kids witness at home. So I would try to understand where it's coming from or why they would think it's okay to do that. My son is 6, and he's the first one to say, you don't hit girls.
That's right. I love him.
You know, if he's in the play yard and we pick him up from school and he's like, so and so hit a girl today and it was so mean and it was so bad. And so I just pray. I'm not gonna say that it'll never happen because my little one is crazy. But I am gonna make sure that that's something that from the very beginning, that they're being taught. You don't hit girls. You don't put your hands on them to help them understand your point. That's not where it goes. That's not how you were taught.
Yeah.
Great. So I think they're both super important. Evelyn, I'm covering you for 2 seconds and I will get you back in a second. We see your eyes. Yvette says, I'm back having technical difficulties, but I believe I reached out to Christina a while ago and I am tuning in from Florida. And this right here has been one of the most empowering sessions I have watched. And I just have to say thank you and God bless you all. So much love. Yvette, thank you so much for watching. I'm glad that this was helpful for you. I hope that when you reached out, I was loving, kind, and supportive. I do hope that you being in Florida, you feel as though you're getting all of the help you need. If you're not, you can definitely reach out. But thank you so much for watching us tonight. So ladies, it is now an hour later. And I would love to keep us on for 2 hours because I know that we can bochinchar as much as we want to. Oh, wait, we have one more comment. I like to make sure that we touch on everybody's comments. So Evelyn, your face might be covered up again. Real quick. Doing good, though. You hide. I think fathers play a very important role in making daughters understand their worth and their strength. As a mother who went through domestic violence and who raised 2 men as a single woman, it was something I addressed constantly. Yes, I definitely agree and attest to that all the way. And I have to say this for both of the women on this live tonight. They both have amazing husbands who are very great fathers. Their kids know that they are loved by their fathers. They do not see any sort of violence in their homes. And I think that that's super, super important. I have always admired that about my friends and all the people in my life, in my circle, who have that in their home. I get emotional again. I've always admired that about all of my friends and family members who have that, who have households that are supportive, who have husbands that are supportive. I have to say this, my daughter may not have it in the home, but my daughter does have it through both of these men. When she sees George, Jessica's husband, you know, he jokes with her. He makes her feel comfortable. He makes her feel loved and welcomed. Evelyn's husband is like her other father. You know, he cares for her. He treats her as if that is her child. Alina has a lot of positive male role models in her life, so she does not lack that. So when it comes to seeing fathers and playing that important role, my daughter does have that, which is super important. So Shirley, you make a very good point. Ladies, we're going to close this out tonight. Again, why am I all choked up?
That's okay. I'm
a little misty-eyed myself.
I do this all the time with anybody that's here because I don't think we always have the forums to say how much we appreciate. And I think throughout the years, I've never given. Woo, there I go. If you went to my documentary, I cried too. I never give everybody in my life the appreciation that they deserve publicly. And I want you both to know that you played tremendous roles and continue to play tremendous roles in my life. And even though I don't see you as much, Jessica, I think of you every day and you know that I truly love you. I see Evelyn more. But
you see me, we talk all the time.
We do. I'm just saying, I'm not right there. That little boy she's talking about is my godson. I love him to death. He's such an amazing little boy. Evelyn's children are amazing. I have tremendous friends. So if everybody takes away from anything tonight, find yourself some good friends because I got me some. My girls are the bomb. So thank you both so much for being here. I love you guys so much.
Love you. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. I love you. Thank you for always being so supportive. As per always, I have to bend down. Sorry, because for some reason my laptop unplugged, and this is why it's live. La cosa pasa. It's about to die.
Your lights are about to be like.
That's right. Listen, everyone that's watching, as always, my constant reminder: make sure to reach out to the National Domestic Violence Hotline if you feel you're in any type of danger. You can always reach out via my text. The number's on the website. You can visit our website, send us a message. You can visit our Facebook, our Instagram. If you need help, always, if I can't find you the help, I'll find anybody else that can. That is what we were here for. We have a bigger picture. We have so much we want to do with our future. But for the meantime, if there's anything that you need and I cannot provide, I will make sure that there is someone there who can help you. The number's 1-800-799-7233. If you cannot talk, you can text. Ladies, I love you both so much.
Thank
Have
you.
a good night,
Thank you
everybody.
for having
Thank
us.
you for watching.
Cheers.
Cheers. Evelyn's water, my drink.
Sorry.
Good night, everybody. Have
Good
a great
night.
night.
Bye.